Thank you for the concert, everyone. John Richards, the Dirty Electronics Ensemble, Anna Xambó, and Jonathan Moss. Um, there was a lot going on here, so let me start by asking each of you what what have we witnessed. John, would you care to share with us?
Well, it was great to be invited to take part in this performance, and it's the first gig we've done really as a group since lockdown. So this is a symbolic moment, and I'd like to thank everyone for taking part in this. And we wanted to create some kind of environment which was not finished, something that had to be found in terms of sound and music, something that had to be patched together, a kind of analog version of live coding.
So, if I understand correctly, these were digital synthesizers with a very chaotic way of analog control.
Yes, I like to think of uncontrollable instruments. That excites me a lot. Something that John Cage talked about. And it takes you out of yourself. You know, you've got to somehow find something, find the music in the materials. So we kind of built an instrument that none of us really knew how to play, or is programmed in a way that is incredibly difficult to work out. And we didn't spend a lot of time analyzing it. In fact, the purpose of that was through discovery and performance that we did today, and with other people, and in all of the combinations, because some of these objects, they can be patched together. Of course, there's other musicians in the room. There's Jonathan and Anna playing. And so today was very much the first time for all of us to play together, actually, as this particular group, and with some of the sound making devices. But of course, it's not just about electronic sound. There are also acoustic sounds happening here. A lot of the signals are sent through prepared speakers, which are then different sounds are created by using objects and resonant tins or bowls. So quite a lot of approaches, including a kind of analog and digital electronics and acoustic sounds. They very much all come together. And it's not about improvising per se, because some of these things are autonomous. You know, they make their own sound, and it's about attending to a sound, or in many ways standing back and appreciating some of the things for what they are.
If I understand correctly, these devices they were built on Friday or something like that. Someone was telling me.
Yes, so the performance begins not just on the stage, but is extended to us getting together on a kind of social level, and preparing some of the materials prior to this particular moment. So we started the performance last week, you could say, and continued with it today, with added bonus of Jonathan and Anna in our presence.
Yeah, I was wondering actually if I understand correctly, there's a microcontroller, a PIC device that is shared by all the participants in the ensemble, and each of them has found other additional ways to intervene the process to interact with this device. So has this preparation, all of these objects that are different per performer, have they been incorporated today, or have you worked on this already last week?
I'd worked on some of the programming. Often a lot of things you don't expect with dirty electronics is being sat in front of a computer. But over the last couple of years, I have done some exclusively digital synths or sound objects. I've worked with a friend of mine in Sweden called Max Wainwright, and we developed something we called the Radical Chip, which was a very small microprocessor where we had to work with the limitations of that microprocessor, which had a tiny memory. No DAC. We actually did, these are completely naked digital synths in that they don't have any digital to analog converter. It's, you know,
Straight pulse width modulation.
and minimal parts. So we did blow up a couple, and that's part of it. And then lots of inputs where you can send raw current. So we were using motors and hard drives to generate current. We were using things like a relay to sequence the whole system to get different rhythmic responses from it all. You can use a microphone as well to modulate things. So it's really much the kind of hybrid world where the kind of analog and electronic and digital sounds all come and work together.
Thank you. So this aspect of discoverability kind of connects with your approach to live coding, right, Anna? Could you explain us a little bit? Because I had a bit of trouble today distinguishing what sounds were coming from the electronic devices and which ones from your computer. I believe it is because you were actually searching for sounds involving electronics. So I wonder if you can explain us a little bit about what you were doing on the computer over there.
Yeah, so I was using the Milka tool, which is this live coding environment. You can describe it as a wall sampler, and in this case has been enhanced by training the environment so that I can retrieve sounds from this wall sampler or crowdsource sounds from people from all over the world, so that they are kind of closer to my preference. But today was like this new approach that like having to listen and improvise with a Dirty Electronics Ensemble and also Jonathan. Then it was also listening what they were doing, but then you can retrieve sounds by description. So it was fun also to query sounds connected to the materials you could see here or the actions you could see on stage. So that was the idea here, to very much listen and continue using this live coding from scratch, but very much influenced by the actions that were happening here.
So did you lay out these searches you were doing online of sounds, or were you actually connected with their live output from their electronic devices in any way?
So we discussed that, but we haven't done this connection yet. So it was more just listening in the old school style and then retrieving from like live, that's retrieving sounds live from freesound.org. But yeah, we were not connected through the three kind of bubbles that you could see. So it was very much the old school improvisation about listening and reacting.
And from what you're saying, the relationship with sound is quite similar to what John was already explaining. You will do a search on freesound, if I'm correct, and even though you're searching about certain kinds of sound, you're not really quite sure what you'll get back, and you have to kind of react to it, adapt it, and transform it on the go, right?
Exactly. And also, yeah, today was very much from scratch in that sense about, what's gonna be downloaded now, and react in the sense you can apply filters. Today I was using like the vibrato or delay or distort, bit crash were quite close to like the noise, like nose moments. So these were the filters, but also you can auto chop these samples. So yeah, it was just playing as the sounds were coming.
Thank you. Jonathan, you were playing trombone.
Yes, that's correct.
And also using the tool that Anna developed.
Yes, I started off with an idea about this conversation, about the whole. I had a theme. I brought a theme with me called Forgotten Conversations, and I used Anna's system to record sort of, I would say, like a DNA of myself, my sort of reaction to sounds that came down from freesound. Having used that, I sort of found some sounds which sort of related to that. It's almost those forgotten conversations we've had over the past year. Living isolated and in our own bubbles. So I found some certain words, for example, like whisper, which brought that very nice sort of sound that came out. I was hoping to get it again, but there's a certain degree of trepidation that as you use the system, you may not get that sound again because it may have changed, and I think that did actually happen. So I brought in this idea of phonetics and sampled some friends who did some phonetics, and that's like t and b and f, and you could hear all those coming through, and I played it with just a random sequencer, and I could change those sequences randomly to create new sorts of sounds, and I was speeding it up as well, sort of starting it off and hearing sort of how you might go to a pub. And eventually you start off quite quietly, and then it gets noisier and noisier and start interacting and louder. And the more that people are enjoying themselves, the louder it actually gets. And you start to miss or mishear certain things, or new words sort of appear. And I think that really worked well with the Dirty Electronics, sort of the sound. It sort of it brought that environment together and created that sort of wonderful sort of thing that we perhaps have all missed, which is noise.
And these sounds that you recorded with your friends, did you upload them to Freesound in order to?
No, I put them on a sampler.
Uh-huh.
But the free sound, the sounds I got down from Freesound were all tagged with certain words. So, for example, I used the word whisper, I used the word pub, restaurant, and you could hear those sounds coming out, and sort of create an environment and perhaps change a few aspects of it. I like to use these sorts of materials together rather than just doing free coding. I like to sort of integrate that with other performances. But within this, it was absolutely wonderful the way the actual sounds just went from one end to the other, and there was a lot of physicality as well. So I wanted to bring in that physicality by using the Kinect, and that sort of triggered a synth, which gave it a degree of improvisation and spontaneity. So I thought that was, and I could take sounds down and bring them up, and then to bring the trombone in, I was trying to actually recreate the noise sounds that you were actually creating down with the voice and the trombone, and the flute as well, doing those sorts of the improvisations. I thought was just to, if you had a low sound, I'd try and put a high sound.
Yeah, I also feel you functioned a little bit like the glue between the other two performers. I found this collaboration rather interesting for the fact that usually the people from the electronics world and the people who are doing live coding are considered very separate scenes with nothing in common. But actually, after Anna told me about this collaboration, I realized that there's way more in common than I could have anticipated. On the one hand, it seems to be like both are communities that give a lot of importance to openly sharing information. That there's, at least in the Dirty Electronics project, this aspect of inclusiveness and pretty much transmitting the message that anyone can come on stage and participate. This is also something very recurrent in the live coding ethos. So I wonder how you guys can yourselves, how you perceive this supposed gap or this connection between these disparate scenes.
Yeah, sort of two sides of the same coin. Maybe perhaps the coders like Anna, perhaps more of the perhaps more pushing towards the future, and perhaps the ones like Jon are perhaps more of the Neanderthal Luddite. So some are trying to, innovate new beautiful technology. Some are taking quite ugly things and making them a bit uglier. I don't know. I suppose the coding thing is generally more of a one-person singular practice, whereas the Dirty Electronics thing, from what I've experienced at least, is it's a group thing where you're working together, you're filling in each other's gaps, you're leaving the gaps for each other. Perhaps you might work against each other, perhaps you might work together. There were moments when Robin was going on a mad one with a load of tins, and I thought, you know what, let's chuck some stuff at him and see what he does with that. Don't know, perhaps that's similar to the kind of material that we're chucking at Anna and Jonathan, and see what they do with it. Perhaps I can literally just fling an object at Robin and see what he does with that.
I think he brought thank you. I think he brought up a really good point, which is that of reacting to other musicians. So I wonder, how you being there on the desk and kind of having a certain lag between your intent and the actual sonic output, how you perceive this as collaborative aspect yourself, how the reaction with what they're doing, or if it's a relationship of basically acceptance.
Yeah, so I guess already when you're retrieving sounds from Freesound through this tool, there's a time that you need to wait, because you don't know. Some sounds you might have control, some sounds are short, but others are longer. So there's also this flow. So I guess this collaboration on site has been similar, in a similar fashion. Just, you know, taking the time, sounds calm, and replying, or the other way around, launching a sound and then getting an answer. So I guess, yeah, it has been natural, I would say. You need to be patient with Milka, for instance, patient about these timings, about downloadings. So it has been a follow-up or a continuum. So didn't see any disruption in that sense.
And Jonathan, you actually, it seems to me that you basically set up pretty much like John was telling, that they approach this modular beast, that you kind of configure a system for it to let it kind of go into a unpredictable state. I mean, you know the source materials, but you kind of let it go, and then we're improvising on top of it with a trombone, which you could actually.
Yeah, so it's creating sort of an environment, and that environment changes. It's within the moment. So it's have an idea, sort of a theme, and then build upon that, and like with the Milka stuff, that it enables me to sort of use. Say I have a thought, or during the week you might come across some ideas, and you put those ideas down, and you can create new sounds from that, and then you can create new patterns and new sounds, and start to build upon that, and then improvise upon that. So that's the way I'm treating it at the moment. But these sorts of collaborations I haven't had experience of, which is absolutely amazing, really, absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I found it interesting that you all pretty much work in the same. You also have told me how you will retrieve some sounds, have kind of a base layer, and then, you know, kind of mold, work with it until you have something that you feel comfortable taking stuff in, out, and putting other things in. And Jonathan seems to do the same way. I'm also getting the feeling that, and so regarding, there was like the ensemble, you would come in and out. I also noticed that, so you had this kind of program time where people would be picking up other people's instrument, or the instrument that someone else had been playing previously. How was this coordinated, or?
Well, I thought about coordinating it, but in the end we didn't. It was an open, improvised approach, but this idea of creating space for each other is important, and basically putting yourself on the line. You can hide in a group, and often we play as a large ensemble, but particularly with the pandemic, we split the group into slightly smaller size subgroups, almost like scenes, as I called it, to work as well with the filming that we were doing. So we worked as a slightly smaller group, so that we could identify, if you like, or have some kind of agency as well with these sounds, and give each other space. So credit to everyone who, they listened, they gave each other space, we worked together. We worked together through not being on the stage as well, which I think was a really important thing.
Pretty much done, I think. Thanks everyone for sharing.
But we will be working together now in the pub.
So let's do it. Thanks everyone.